What's up, y'all? Got another one for you. Today we're going to talk about, passing judgment on people and how that pretty much is a reflection about part of it is like a reflection of how we feel about ourselves and not giving people the grace, not processing things, being very impulsive, being very, neurodivergent about how we feel about things, how we feel about ourselves. Um, we all kind of go through that as kids, through our adolescence of passing judgment on other people, saying that's right, that's wrong. Why would you do it that way? What's going on here? What's going on there? We're always going to do it as well, especially since it's so prevalent in our cultures all over the world, just judging other people. But in reality, we're just kind of, when we do that, we're judging ourselves very, very harshly. We don't give we don't give ourselves that grace. We don't really kind of allow ourselves to have flaws. Unfortunately, we all have to be perfect. We're all kind of chasing this idea of perfection, and by doing that, we are just not allowing ourselves to just fully be immersed in the human experience of being imperfect, of learning and growing, and just allowing ourselves to be, essentially. That's how we kind of allow ourselves to get in our own way and really keep ourselves from growing into who we are truly supposed to be by passing so much judgment on others, which means we're passing judgment on ourselves. To give an example, say you have a child with someone and that person is being very cruel about the time you get to spend with that child. You made an agreement, you get them for 1 week, then they get them for the other week, and you do your best to make sure that they get the child in a very healthy, positive mind frame. They're always surrounded by good people, eating good foods, doing right by the kid, and you also don't badmouth the other person. And then you send them to that person for their week. You notice that they're not doing the same. They're kind of neglecting them. They're kind of bad mouthing you to them. They're kind of keeping them a little bit longer, maybe a few hours longer, maybe even a couple of days longer. You're trying to figure out what's going on with them, and it's just a lot of those things aren't making sense. And it's easy for you or for your loved ones or the people in your life, in your environment, to pass judgment on that person and be like, that person's fucked up, that person's, they're mentally ill, that person's this, that, and the third, they're not a good person, just passing judgment on them. And I feel like that's a very easy, very impulsive thing to do, a very ADHD thing to do to someone, and it's very logical as well. It makes a lot of logical sense. But like I've been talking about in these videos, you gotta also, in that big pie chart, you gotta put in like the biology and the emotions in there as well. This whole facts don't care about your feelings movements going on is really kind of sending people back many years, and we are going to have to continue to, well, we're going to kind of deal with that when we're going to cross that bridge when it gets there. But a lot of people are going to really get in their own way by not looking at it from the biological and emotional sense, because that person may not consciously know what they're doing, but they subconsciously know what they're doing in their unconscious, where they want to hurt the other person. They want to make the person feel negative emotions, pain. They want to make that person suffer in a way. And we can make all the excuses, all the logical excuses about how that's wrong, but people just don't do things that are actually wrong, or that they feel is wrong. Animals just don't do that. Yes, we do things that make us feel bad in the moment, and we do things that we might regret long term, but it still isn't wrong. Unfortunately, it's not a bad thing. It's just kind of how things are, and passing judgment on people is very, very detrimental to your growth. Seeing someone doing something that you perceive as bad, stealing, killing, assaulting someone, bullying someone. Sure, that brings up a lot of immediate feelings in our bodies that we just don't want to feel at that moment. You know what I'm saying? Seeing a child, getting abused right in front of you isn't something that we kind of wake up and kind of want to see in our environment. But it is the reality of the world that we live in, where you will see someone who you will perceive to be like a protector or a someone to give someone guidance to, and they're going to, in our minds, abuse that person and be very cruel and very unkind to that person. And a lot of our immediate reaction is to pass judgment on that person and to think of them in a negative light, which is, like I was saying, very logical and even emotional in the moment. But once you really process the whole thing, we are no better than that person who did that act. And it takes a lot more courage and strength to not actually pass judgment on anyone, actually, to allow things to lie where they belong. Obviously, we need rules and we need standards. That we just can't have people, killing people and just letting them walk away. But you don't have to pass judgment on that person. You do not have to see that person is wrong. And because if you see what they're doing is wrong, then you have to make a very conscious and very logical, emotional, biological, social reason, like what is right. And we've been doing that since the beginning of time, of what is right, what is moral, what is just. And we've never truly came to a standard conclusion. It's always mutating and changing, evolving every single day. So we can't really go around and tell people what is right and what is wrong, because it's never going to fully hold up to scrutiny. We are eventually at some point going to find flaws in that logic and that reasoning, and being like, okay, well, we're getting closer, but we're never actually going to get there, because wrong and right, good and evil is pretty much, it's submerged in perfection, and perfection doesn't exist, especially with animals. We are nothing. We are nowhere near perfect, which makes us beautiful. All animals are beautiful because we have flaws. We are not perfect. So when you pass judgment on people, you're basically expecting people to be perfect. That's why people will respond like, I'm human. We all have flaws. We all have imperfections. We all have things in our past that we wish did not happen, because it makes us feel better, even though those things made us who we are. So it's very very also toxic and harmful to look back at those terrible things and to wish that they didn't happen, wish things were different, while also getting all the benefits of those experiences as well. I'm learning that myself. I would not have what I have now. I would not have the knowledge that I have now if I did not have those experiences and what came from those experiences as well. You'll never fully know like what comes from that, because of you only see what you see. You only see in the first person. You can't see what all is going on in the background, but you just know that if you're constantly getting positive reinforcement, if you're constantly just moving forward and progressing forward, it is because of everything that you've been through, and we're all kind of in this together. Very similar to what I was talking about in the previous video, but just I'm noticing for myself that when I was passing judgment on people, it was kind of like a portion, multiple portions of that was me being like submerged in neuroticism a little bit, thinking that I was better than that person because I would not have done that if I was in their shoes, which is completely false. You have no idea what made that person that person. We very much we don't have a whole lot of ideas about what makes us us. So, passing that judgment on, why would you do that? Do you know me? Do you understand what's going on in my life? Do you even know what happened to me today? No, you have no idea. I have no idea what happened to you to make you feel like you can pass judgment on me. So when I was doing that, that was my lens, my perspective was I had the authority to pass judgment on people when they were doing things that I would not have done in my body in my scenario, but I would have done the same exact thing if I was them. You know, we are no different from each other, from like a biological sense. We're very similar. So thinking that someone, stealing something or abusing someone or saying something very cruel, is less than you because you would not have done that, is taking a whole lot of that nuance out of who that person is and who you are, the environments that we grew up in, our families, our genetics. So many things are just taken out of context. And yeah, that's why when you pass judgment on someone, you're basically just doing it to yourself, and you're setting yourself up for failure, because then you are missing out on so many people. Because when you're passing judgment on people, then there's a lot of great people who would have actually or have done that terrible thing. A lot of your best friends have stolen. A lot of your best friends have done and said cruel things. A lot of your uh, relationship partners, your husbands, your wives, or whatever, your moms, your dads, your family, they have done these same exact things that you are passing judgment on this person that you don't have an attachment on. And yeah, you're setting yourself up for failure because basically you're judging everyone who's ever done that, including yourself. A lot of the times when you pass judgment on someone, seeing someone abuse a child, or cause you've abused someone at some point, and someone pass judgment on you, and the cycle continues to where we should all try to get to a better understanding of ourselves, and understand that we have no right to judge anyone. I'm not a very um, I am spiritual, but I definitely don't belong to any religion. But I do appreciate parts of Christianity that tells people, he without sin, shall cast the first stone. That is very, very true. Since we all have sin, we should not be throwing rocks at anyone. But it's a very biological, very human thing, animalistic thing to do that, because we're kind of trying to get a better footing in the hierarchy, whatever we want, wherever we want to be, wherever we perceive ourselves as going to, is where we're going to go, and we will do that by any means necessary, even if it kind of screws over our future self. Us being very impulsive in today's world is costing us a whole lot. And for me personally, I feel like once we kind of take that time, give ourselves that downtime to process things, and to be like, hold up, I really, really, really don't want to just pass any type of judgment on this right now. I just need time to really think about it. I don't need more information. I don't need any more of that. I just need time to really process things. We've all had things that we've done that we wanted to do very impulsively, that once we slept on them, the next day all of a sudden we had a completely different viewpoint on it. And a lot of the times that actually leads to better results versus just doing something right then and there in a moment. It's kind of setting us up for failure. You can do that with I was going to go apply to this job. This happened a few weeks ago because of, when I wanted to get back to work, wanted to kind of get back into the groove of things in the day to day. And I was going to do that first thing in the morning, but once I slept on it and I kind of reflected on it a little bit more, I had a different, more like a refreshed mind. I realized that this was only going to lead back into that feeling that I was going through, that depression, that just not moving towards my focus, and I didn't do it, and I'm very grateful that I gave myself that grace to do that. I didn't pass judgment on me. I didn't allow myself to get in my own way, get in my head, and yeah, I'm better off for it. So, getting a little bit back on track about not passing judgment, and allowing yourself to empathize with people and put yourself in their shoes, is just we have a very impulsive way of calling people out for their cruelty and saying people are fucked up, people are not nice, people are cruel, people are this, that, and the other, people need to work on themselves, this and that. And it's just I don't fully agree with that anymore. I do like self-help and glowing up and improving yourself and go to therapy and doing all these different things to get better results. But at the same time, there's you cannot look at your past self and say there's something wrong with that person. That person is broken. That person needs this person needs help, that they need God, they need this or whatever. That's one of the main things I don't like about Christianity. It pretty much tells people that they're wrong and they're broken and they need something to fix them. That's very it's not logical, it's not emotional, it's not biological. There's nothing wrong with any of us. We are not born to be broken, to be this, to be that. Someone's dropped in their head and their brain chemistry changes and who they are changes. There's nothing broken with them. You know what I'm saying? Like there's if you drop we break a glass bottle, a water glass, and it shatters. There's nothing wrong with any of the pieces of that glass. It's just scattered everywhere. And if you just think, oh, well, it's useless now, sweep it up, throw it away, then that's how you feel. But you can do something with that. It still has value. It's still tangible. We just don't see it that way. You break it, you drop a glass and it breaks in 5 pieces. You can do something with that. You can either try to bring it back together or make something else with it or do something else with it. But it didn't lose its value. It's the same exact thing before you dropped it. It just now in different, it's just a different form now. And it all kind of depends on your perspective of how you view it. So when someone goes through a traumatic experience that changes their viewpoint from one to the other, that person isn't broken. That person isn't defective. That person doesn't need help, need healing. None of us do. We are all trying to make the best of our situations that we were kind of put into. And sometimes we do that in a very positive way. Sometimes we do things in a negative way. But at the end of the day, it is getting us closer to who we are as a person, as people, as humans, as animals. You have no idea who your doctor who's in their 50s was 30 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like 30 years ago, you would have met them, you would have saw what they were doing. You would have been like, oh, I don't want this person being my doctor. They're wilding out, they're drunk. They're being very dishonest or liars, this, that, and the third. And you would be like, oh, I would have never had that person be my doctor. Fast forward, 30 years, all of a sudden this person's a very good, very well-respected doctor. And you're like confused on like, how can this happen? How can this be? And it's like, okay, you passed judgment on them 30 years ago, and now fast forward 30 years, you're still passing judgment on that person. And while you were passing judgment on that person was just gaining more knowledge, maturing, and becoming the person who they always wanted to be. They weren't fixated on you passing judgment on them and living in their head about, oh, this person doesn't think I will be anything. This person doesn't think I will amount to anything. Therefore, that's who I am. I know I'm cool. I actually don't need your opinions. I appreciate that you have opinions of me. That means that I matter enough to you to care. So I definitely appreciate that. But I'm going to continue doing what I'm going to do. And boom, they became a successful doctor because of the judgment that people passes on you doesn't make you. It literally doesn't actually mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. People pass judgment all the time. Like I was saying, it doesn't actually have a whole lot of long-term effects in people's trajectory. So if that was like your unconscious goal was to kind of knock people off their block, it's not going to really work because the fact that like all of our opinions don't really matter in the long term. So we should probably use that time to better ourselves so we can better our environments, better our loved ones, and truly get to our purpose in life, because that is what this is all about. At the end of the day, is to get to a better understanding of ourselves and a better understanding of who we are and how imperfect we all are, how we are just constantly just doing things that we don't even know. Like so many things we do is unconscious, subconscious, and we just need to get the better grip of that, get a lot of that back here into the front of our heads so we can be who we always were supposed to be and change, do a little bits of changes of who we are and who we are projected to be to get better results and to really kind of, change a little bit of our destiny. A lot of things are predetermined, but a lot of things aren't. And we are learning more and more about that every day. But long story short, passing judgment on people, passing judgment is pretty much equal to passing judgment on yourself. It's saying that you don't need this, you don't need that. It's yeah, it's not really going to help you in the long term of doing that. I'm definitely doing that a lot less now, more. So when we do that, we are basically just passing judgment on ourselves. We are limiting ourselves. We are keeping ourselves from being truly empathetic people, to understanding that we are no different from each other. Even though, like, I am me and you are you, if I had your parents and I had your lifestyle, if I had your environment, I'll be no different. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, at the end of the day, we can't really be passing judgment on other people because of our ignorance, because of our flaws, because of how our environments and what we consume in those environments dictate a lot of who we are. So someone can be passing judgment on someone, and that person might be like the last person to do it. You know what I'm saying? Someone who beats their kids and who beats their spouses, are passing judgment on other people who do that. Or even if you don't do that, saying that you don't have any capacity to do that is absolutely the definition of insanity. Not the definition literal, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it's like we all have that in us to do whatever crime that we see, any wrongdoing that we see, anything that we see as cruel. We all have it inside of us. We just, some tap into it, some don't. And a lot of people who do tap into it isn't off of this, I'm just going to try to be this evil, cruel, unlikable person. A lot of it's because of trauma, hurt, pain, misunderstandings, wrong place, wrong time. A lot of things are just out of all of our control. So it's just us just doing that and really getting in our own way of growth and full, true understanding of ourselves and who we are as animals is causing a lot of turmoil and grief. But everything happens for a reason. I'm not saying you're wrong for doing it. I'm not saying I'm right for not doing it. But I can definitely see that we are limiting ourselves by passing judgment, being very impulsive about how we view people and how we view ourselves. And yeah, it keeps us from evolving into becoming even greater than what we are right now. That is my goal, is to be the best version of myself that I can be every single day, and a really, really healthy and positive way for me to do that is to keep from judging myself. And the only way I can keep from judging myself, the best way to keep from judging myself, is to keep from judging others. You know what I'm saying? Because I see the results of what people can become when they judge other people, is that they're going to be passing that same judgment or similar judgment to themselves. You know what I'm saying? They're really going to stunt their growth. And that's the last thing I want to do. I want to make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I am doing what I need to do on a daily basis to get to where I want to go. And I know I'm well on my way there. I want to continue getting there. And the best way for me to do that is by loving myself and not judging myself for every single thing that I do wrong. Every single scenario that I feel like didn't go the way that I wanted to, even though it is good to reflect on those moments and to be like, yeah, that wasn't the best for me. I need to give myself that grace, and by doing that is by giving other people that grace as well. By looking at people and seeing, them being not the nicest to you, not being very kind, being very cruel, and being like, I have no place to judge that person about what they did in that scenario, because if I would have caught them in a different day, in a different environment, in a different, different whatever, that same scenario, that same event could have went completely differently. So once I really kind of got that understanding of myself, it made not impulsively passing judgment on people that much easier. And I was able to give myself that grace as well. But I'm still a work in progress. I'm not perfect. I'm still going to pass judgment. We're all going to be passing judgment because that's something that we do in our society and as creatures of habit. But we're getting better at it every single day. I feel like by doing it and by seeing how it's negatively affecting us, that's the best way to learn is by personal experience. But that's it. That's the whole video is no, we are no better than anybody else. We have no room to judge other people because we are just as flawed as they are. And by showing and doing these actions of judging others is just showing our flaws and showing that we need to keep continuing to give ourselves that grace and give ourselves that love so we can be great human beings and really just do some wild ass shit, honestly, in a good, positive way. But like I said, there is no good or bad. It's just neutral. All of it is at the end of the day. But that's all the ramble I got for y'all. Take it easy.